Sarah Karpushin, and I am a student at the U of A for theater design.
My name is Akemi Matsubuchi, and I am an instructor at NAIT, as well as being a commercial photographer.
My name is Jane Heather, and I'm a playwright and a director for live theater, and I'm also a facilitator and teacher.
My name is Elise Jason, and the work that I do in the creative world is I'm a theater designer, as well as I like to work in poetry and movement and other artistic venues like visual art and performance art.
All humans do some kind of creative work. Some people do it as their main job, but everybody does some. And it's a thing about taking different components that don't seem to have much in common and finding ways that they connect or spark together. And that might end up being a piece of art. It might be a problem that you're trying to solve. It's being able to connect up disparate kinds of things in a way that is maybe different from how they've been connected before.
Fine art work is pretty broad. It's art, subjective, right? So some people may consider social documentary work fine art work. All of that work is creative to me, whether it's found and you're seeing it and capturing it and telling a story, or you're building from scratch.
I joined the creative world, I think when I was very young. I've always been part of theater and drawing. Yeah, it's just always been something that's been a part of me, and I felt like going into it professionally was really the only venue for me to put out things that I was satisfied with. I think if I'd gone into any other sort of establishment, I wouldn't be as happy as where I am now, and I felt like it was something where I could do things and I could succeed. And being in the community now, I found a lot of people that I really get along with and really resonate with. And I've discovered a lot about myself and a lot about this business that keeps me motivated and keeps me going. And I definitely feel like I'm in the right place.
I want to go more into props, and that led me into theater design at the U of A, and I've discovered a whole new world of set and costume design, and so I'm just kind of discovering different parts of the art world that I didn't even think to look at.
I think that we're compelled as humans to try to understand our world, and it's like going on a journey, and then when you come back you have to find a way to tell what you saw. And for me, that was part of what drove me into, or compelled me, or pulled me into creative work, is wanting to figure out some of those things. How do I talk about what I see? How do I communicate to another human about something where they weren't on the journey or they didn't go to that country? And it could be a country in the mind, it could be a physical country, it could be another person's life. And once you get that bug, even though usually there's not much money in it, it pulls people along, is that desire to communicate something.
What motivates me to create? Politics, gender and sexuality. I'm a queer, non-gender, binary identifying femme. There's a lot of stuff in that makes me want to create art to help other people who are in the same spot of the other and being in this weird nebulous otherness. That makes me want to create more art for people to identify with and give them sort of a coping mechanism in that.
What motivates me to create is so many things. Different artists, different in any type of field, the world around me, people around me. Big inspirations are Salvador Dali and Robert Wilson and Frida Kahlo and so many more. I can't even think of them now. I'm trying to blank, but I guess people inspire me and people's ideas, just because we can always recreate new ideas and get inspiration from others.
What motivates me to create? I get mad about stuff. That's the main thing. Things that, grip onto my mind or my heart, that I feel there's something is not right, something is not balanced, something is not just. That's what motivates me, is I want to talk about things that get ignored, people that get ignored, stories that aren't heard, things that get me agitated.
I often have creative slumps where I don't feel like I'm creating anything of value. Like right now, I have the most creative outlets that I think I've ever had in my life. I was asked to be part of like a big art show, and I had like plays coming up that I could do designs on. I have like new assignments coming up, and I just felt like I wasn't putting out anything good, or like couldn't think of anything that would be meaningful to other people. And I think I'm still figuring out how to work through them. But surrounding myself with a lot of people who are like-minded, who can give you necessary criticisms is really helpful. But also like listening to other people who've also been in slumps and listening to what they do is so helpful. Because it's nice to know that you're not by yourself, and a lot of people, especially very like prolific and successful artists, are in the same spot as you.
I often have creative slumps. I see now, I started university in 1986, so I graduated in 87, graduated in 91, 4 years, somewhere in there. And that was probably the best time to be pushed to be creative, because as a student, you have assignments, you have pushed to do it every week. Once I left school, there have been several times where I photograph for a job and it's still not pushing me creatively. So that's where you take on personal work, and that's the best way I believe that people can come out of a creative slump, is to pick a subject, pick something that you like, you're passionate about, you want to explore, and that will usually get me out of mine. And for me, it might be just going hiking and going out to the woods and photographing with my infrared camera. That might just do it. Or the other big thing is I troll through the internet a lot, books, the library. I love looking at past work and new work, because I find that also gives me a kickstart, getting out of what I think is boring for me. Or
everybody has times where you feel useless and you don't know what to do next. Two things. One is just time. You just have to kind of live through it, and the other is to try to change your focus. So I'm a theater person. I work with humans and words in three-dimensional space, words and movement and ideas. So my go-to when I feel like nothing's happening is physical stuff with my hands. So I build things and I make things. It's another kind of creative, and it gives that part of my brain a bit of a rest, gives me another way in.
The advice that I would give to people going into the creative field is try a bunch of different things, and really get involved in your community. I've met so many people in this community that have inspired me to think of art and create art differently than I would have originally going in. Especially if you have a lot of friends that do different things, and you get them to teach it to you. You might not necessarily be like the best at that, but at least you now have like an understanding of that skill, and you can develop that skill, and you can like learn about it and integrate it into art that you create. Just really network. And if you're not like the most socially confident person, find your people. Especially if you're not necessarily like socially confident. Like, I'm a very anxious person, but I like really tried to push myself in my first couple years of university to meet a lot of people, and I'm so glad that I did, because now I have this really close group of friends that are all very creative, and they inspire me to create. And I'm so lucky to have them. And there's a lot of love in that, and I think finding your family is so important, because these are people that are like-minded, and they will accept you and love you no matter what, because they go through the same struggles that you do.
don't be your own worst critic, and don't be afraid of like a blank page or starting out new, or like your skill level or anything, because everyone needs to start somewhere.
That's an excellent question, and something that I think about pretty much every week at school, every day when I'm talking to students, and figuring out what I need to do to push them to be creative. And especially when we go into fine art class. For me, it's actually three-part. I call it inspiration, perspiration, and motivation. Because you need all three of those things. You need to physically work hard. As photographers, it's a really physical job, right? Whether it be you moving your body, whether it's directing models, it's setting up lights, all those things. Motivation and inspiration are two very different things, because you can look at work and you can say that's really cool, but the next part is motivation. How do you take that's very cool and get your butt off the chair and go put everything together to do it? So what I usually tell people is that that's great, you can go research all you want, but then you've got to put your best foot forward and work at it. And inspiration is all around us. It's in every magazine you can look at, it's in books you can look at, it's other artists you talk to, and that's the easy part. The hard part is the perspiration and the motivation.
I think we live in a culture where creatives, it's a word that has been used over the last, probably 10 years as a thing to describe people doing startups and creating new apps for things, yeah? And so it isn't just sort of artists or what we narrowly think of as artists. It includes a lot of people who are trying to solve problems. So I like that. I think that's really terrific. I think we've got some very big problems to solve. So I would caution people not to get stuck in, am I an artist? And will I ever be paid for my art? And to think widely about what creativity is and how they can use it. I think that we don't know very much about it. I mean, there's a lot of writing about it now. All the business want to have lots of creativity going on, but it's not quantifiable. You can't sort of go down a checklist and say, oh yes, this is a creative person. I think there are things about it that we don't understand. And saying, yeah, that's okay. It doesn't have to be scientifically boxed. What we need is a lot of creative problem solving. And to rely on some of that, to not necessarily be able to name everything that you can do. And to be sort of sit in that for periods of time when you have to and say, I don't know exactly what I'm doing. I think it's hard for young people because there isn't much space to do that. There's a lot of pressure. You guys need work. You need to, get out there and get trained and make things happen. But give yourself some time.
Verse 7 days, so those who lose all things be sunlight garden.